Everyone from survivors to lawmakers coming together.
We have a lot of work to do when it comes to gun violence in this country.
To remember the tragedy in Parkland. Migrant flights. A special session topic in Tallahassee. And getting an early start to boat show weekend with a watercraft that doesn't need any gas.
School tragedy.
So, I ask you just to begin with just a moment of silence.
The event featured a brief ceremony by spiritual leaders sharing prayers and stories, followed by a short video and performance by Stoneman Douglas Band and Choir to honor the victims.
It's not been easy. It's been 5 tough years. It doesn't seem to get any easier as the time passes. I want to honor the families, There's very little else we can do. And just being here and showing them support is really important.
The Parkland community participated in creating small lanterns with messages that brought light to the ceremony and a special drum circle. Community members expressed frustration for the ongoing gun violence that is still happening after 5 years.
I'm also frustrated because of what happened yesterday in Michigan, and it's just a reminder that we have a lot of work to do when it comes to gun violence in this country and gun control legislation. And this, to me, just keeps the memory alive, but also the causes that are necessary out of these types of events in this country.
Black and white portraits created by the Inside Out Global Art Project were displayed for the community in remembrance of the 17 lives lost. Each year, this event serves as a humble reminder to remember the 17 lives and the community that unites to honor them and mourn with one another. Reporting for South Florida Media Network, I'm Emily Cajias.
Michigan State University is in mourning today after the community holds a vigil to honor those who were killed during the MSU shooting. The scene was Monday on the campus in East Lansing, and the vigil was last night. The identities of the 3 MSU students who were killed has been released, with friends and family gathering to pay their respects. May Brian Fraser, Ariel Anderson, and Alexandria Werner rest in peace while the community looks for the strength to move forward.
It's scary to think that people have to go back into these places where these classes are being held, so I think honestly MSU needs to have a hard look at what we're doing for the next couple months or weeks.
The university has canceled classes for the next week and has started offering grief counseling and therapy dogs to help those impacted, and saying they will be offering resources for the long haul.
The way the state handles migrants is a hot topic this morning, both those who land in Florida and those from out of state. Reporter Natalie LaRoche from our D.C. Bureau is in Washington this morning.
Last year, Texas Governor Greg Abbott bused migrants from Texas to so-called sanctuary cities and states, including thousands to Union Station here in D.C. Florida followed suit and sent 2 planes from Texas to Martha's Vineyard. But Governor DeSantis received backlash because the people on the planes weren't from Florida. This new law gets around that. The newly established Unauthorized Alien Transport Program allows Florida to move migrants from anywhere in the country, giving Florida authority to, as the bill says, take necessary actions to protect Floridians from the impacts of the border crisis. Republicans defend migrant relocation as a way to draw attention to the high number of people crossing the border and the financial burden it places on border cities. Democratic leaders in cities on the receiving end call it human trafficking. The flights to Massachusetts last September were filled mostly with Venezuelans who arrived in the U.S. seeking asylum. Some of them claimed they were tricked on where they were going, but DeSantis said no one was forced on the planes and that it was completely voluntary. DeSantis paid for the flights to Martha's Vineyard from a $12 million budget he created last June for migrant transportation. Unlike Texas, Florida only relocated migrants once because of legal confrontations that ensued, including a lawsuit from a state senator and a class action suit by immigrant groups. The bill now heads to DeSantis' desk, and his deputy press secretary says he will review it and, quote, decide on the merits of the bill as presented. From Washington, D.C., I'm Natalie LaRoche for the South Florida Media Network.
Okay. The work of an FIU professor will help the USD develop dietary guidelines for all Americans. The network's Claudia Morales has more details about the story.
I'm outside the Robert Semple College of Public Health and Social Work at FIU, where the chair of dietetics and nutrition, Dr. Cristina Palacios, has been selected by the U.S. Department of Agriculture as part of the 2025 Dietary Guidelines Advisory Committee. With more than 20 years of experience as a researcher, Professor Palacios will advise the Department of Agriculture and the Department of Health and Human Services to develop guidelines for federal nutrition policy. She says it is an honor to be recognized among other 20 national public health experts.
I feel very honored to be chosen, but also overwhelmed. We have to make sure that we review all the available data out there and make sure our recommendations are based on evidence.
The committee will evaluate the relationship between diet and health in different life stages. Nutrition and health experts will review current body of nutrition science to develop the guidelines for the 2025 to 2030 period.
Use the previous one and make sure that the recommendations in that one are still consistent with the evidence found, and then provide new recommendations as new issues are arising.
Dr. Palacios' expertise on human nutrition and dietary patterns among Hispanics makes her a great candidate for this committee. According to Palacios, the development of these guidelines have a huge impact in all ethnic groups across the country.
All the nutrition and diet-related programs in the U.S. always use these guidelines to develop their own programs and translate the evidence, the guidelines, to whatever they're doing.
Palacios, who's originally from Venezuela, is currently working with the World Health Organization on revising the requirements for infants for several nutrients. In Miami, I'm Claudia Morales for the South Florida Media Network. There's someone new this morning in the race for the White House. Yesterday, a former South Carolina Republican governor filed to run for president with the Federal Election Commission. Nikki Haley is the first to challenge former President Donald Trump for the GOP nomination. There's a high chance she will be competing with other potential GOP candidates like Florida Governor Ron DeSantis, former Vice President Mike Pence, and former Secretary of State Mike Pompeo. In the ongoing investigation of former President Trump's handling of classified documents, federal prosecutors now allegedly want to force Trump's lawyer to provide additional testimony. Sources say that the Department of Justice filed a motion to force Ivan Corcoran, the attorney of the former president, to testify again. His first testimony before the grand jury lasted about 4 hours. Federal prosecutors say that they believe Trump used Corcoran to advance plans of crime or fraud. Plans for the next private astronaut mission is underway. NASA has announced who will be on Axiom's next private astronaut mission. Former astronaut Peggy Whitson will command the flight. The rest of the crew consists of a pilot from Knoxville and 2 mission specialists from Saudi Arabia. The crew will travel on a SpaceX Dragon spacecraft and spend 10 days at the International Space Station. The Panthers playing the second night of back-to-back games. That's still ahead, and so is the story.
For us, it's really about getting our name out, but also getting the technology out there so the consumer can then make a better choice.
On the eve of Boat Show weekend, we take a look at an EV on water. Newsbreak will be back in 2 minutes.
When I was in foster care, I never knew when I would have to move, so I always had my suitcase ready to go. Then one day, I was adopted. My new parents opened their hearts and home to me. My parents cook my favorite breakfast for me every morning. My parents take me on trips I never thought I would go on. They gave me a home and an even better reason to use that suitcase. My parents aren't perfect, but they're perfect for me.
With Julia's autism, loud sounds can be too much.
But she still loves to make music.
Yeah.
Play band.
Early screening for autism can make a lifetime of difference. Find out more at screenforautism.org.
If you need to do something to feel okay to drive, you're not okay to drive. Don't drive buzzed.
There was an old woman who lived in a shoe. She had so many children, she didn't know what to do. She gave them some broth without any bread and kissed them all soundly.
Lights out.
And put them to bed. Hunger is a story we can end. End it at feedingamerica.org.
I help our fellows design their paths as creative entrepreneurs. My experiences serving startups, creative businesses, and cultural organizations, and my journey as a queer mixed immigrant with Haitian and Arabic roots, inform the co-creative environment we foster at Radcliffe. We leverage our collective diversity to encourage the building of lifelong personal learning networks and mindsets that stimulate continuous innovation.
Charged up for Boat Show weekend, it's one of the annual South Florida traditions in the days leading up to President's Day. The Miami International Boat Show returns for its 54th year, but this time with a focus on eco-friendly boats.
The network's Kenneth Bueno has more from the Miami Beach Convention Center.
For 2023, South Florida puts its sails up as the 54th Miami International Boat Show kicks off at the Miami Beach Convention Center with all of the newest innovations of marine travel. This year's edition of the show features the newest eco-friendly models with a heavier presence of electrification and battery-powered boats. While some have been hesitant to switch, many companies, such as Hercules Electric Marine, claim this will be a pivotal year for the industry and consumers.
Well, for a number of reasons, it is very important for Hercules, but also for electric boating in general. It's about consumer awareness, first and foremost. When the consumer wants a better solution to a problem, they're going to demand that solution. And so for us, it's really about getting our name out, but also getting the technology out there so the consumer can then make a better choice, quite frankly.
Since the inaugural show in 1969, Miami has been regarded as one of the most important locations for marine transportation. Last year, the show brought 100,000 visitors to displays on land and sea. The convention center is one of 6 venues hosting the 4-day event, with others in Venetian Marina, Herald Plaza, Museum Park Marina, and Yacht Haven Grande, Miami.
I mean, what can I say about Miami that everyone else hasn't already said? I mean, it's one of the most fun cities in America, let alone the world. So for us, the atmosphere at the boat show is all about enthusiasm. The city is a great place to be, and just have that energy that you get in Miami. And so every day is a summer day here. And so you can't be unhappy with that. So we're just really excited to be here in Miami and enjoy it as part of our coming out party for this technology.
The boat show lasts from February 15th to 19th, offering a wave of the future for all wanting to attend. Reporting from the Miami Beach Convention Center, Kenneth Bueno of the South Florida Media Network.
The Florida Panthers feeling blue this morning after their heavy loss on the road against the St. Louis Blues. The Cats just could not get the ball rolling, and the Blues were able to run the score up, scoring 1 goal in the first period, 2 goals in the second period, and a hat trick in the third. The final score was Panthers 2, Blues 6. The Panthers will go to Washington, D.C. to face off against the Capitals tomorrow at 7 p.m.
That's all the time we have for Newsbreak. I am Paloma Pimentel.
I'm Amanda Gray. Get more news anytime at sfmn.fiu.edu.